But right now we're in that gap where things aren't working. And so this is our chance to turn the world around with the masters as they come forward. We're going to build a new civilization. We're going to build a new civilization that provides food and clothing and shelter and education and healthcare and freedom and justice and dignity for everybody.
Hello, everyone. I'm your host, David Mynott II. For this episode, we'll be tying into one of our sister shows, What in the World is Happening, which, so to speak, tills the same esoteric soil as Planetary Makeover. Their staff will be joined by one guest, Dick Larson, who you may recall is a co-founder and former host of Planetary Makeover. All of the guests have been studying the Ageless Wisdom teaching for decades. So this will be a spirited discussion about the new age breaking on humanity's horizon and which beckons us to embrace it. So that is the essence of this show, the 8 great spiritual facts of life. Enjoy.
And I'd like to just say welcome to the people who just joined us on Zoom and you were in the waiting room. Thank you for coming today. Welcome to the show. We're happy to be here again. I'll just repeat our names. We've got myself, Sabina, in Edmonton, along with Tim Boetzkes, also in Edmonton. Hi, Tim.
Hello.
And Cielito is with us in Seattle. Hi, Cielito.
Holding down the tech end here. Thanks for your patience.
And we're joined by our special guest today, Dick Larson in Los Angeles, California. Hi, Dick.
Hi, everybody.
And our show today is 8 Great Spiritual Facts. And we're very excited to hear what Dick has to say. So anytime you want to jump in, do we want to talk about our links and our resources first?
Sure, we have some great resources. If the information we're talking about today resonates with you and you want to find out more, you can certainly check out the website share-international.org. So share-international.org. There's some great videos on YouTube on the Share International YouTube channel. Some great lectures and great information there. And there are also some great downloads and books that you can look into on share-ecart.com. And some free downloads as well.
Great. So, Dick, are you ready to start? Do you want to jump in?
Sure. So we're going to talk today about 8 great spiritual facts of life. And one of the things we want to say right at the outset is that although we consider these to be facts, we're absolutely convinced they're true. We're not asking you to believe that. We're not asking you to believe anything that we say. Actually, just we're not here to try to convince you that what we say is true. We're just here to present our information, and if 10 or 20 or 30% of it makes sense to you, we'll be very, very happy with that. So you don't have to believe anything we say. The source of our information, people always ask, what's the source of your information? Well, the source of our information is something called the Ageless Wisdom teachings, or the Ageless Wisdom. It's a living philosophy. It's a philosophy about life, about why we're here, what we're doing here, who we really are, and so on. And this philosophy is as old as humanity. And the teachings have been passed down first verbally, and then finally in writing. The 2 latest teachers of the Ageless Wisdom are a woman named Alice A. Bailey, who wrote about 20 books in the 1930s and 40s. And then Benjamin Creme, spelled C-R-E-M-E, looks like cream, but it's creme. He lived in London, passed away a few years ago. He has about 17 books, I think, on Amazon.com. We're not here to sell books, but we want to make you aware of them in case you want to check them out for more information. He was the latest revealer. All of us knew Benjamin Creme and spent quite a bit of time with him and found him to be fascinating, honest, and inspired. And so Benjamin Creme is the source of the information that we're going to be giving out about the world teacher. So let's start. Great fact number one: everything is God. This is pretty basic stuff, but a lot of people are unaware of it. Everything we see and don't see is God. Now, that doesn't mean we go around and worship trees and stuff like that. I'm not talking about worshiping. I'm talking about having respect for, realizing that everything on our planet that we see and don't see is sacred, including us. We're sacred. We're spiritual. See, when I grew up, I heard about God transcendent, God way out there somewhere on a cloud, sitting in a gold throne. That was the God I grew up with. But then I learned later that there's also God immanent, God in us and around us all the time, all the time. And so God is in everything we see and don't see. God is neither male or female or Christian or Buddhist or any religion. God is in all the religions and in no religion. And God responds to any name that different religions want to call him. One name, same God. So
Dick, can I just say something?
Sacred. Go ahead.
Yeah. So you were talking about worshiping trees, and you said something like, "We don't worship trees."
Right.
Well, I just wanted to say though that a person could worship a tree, or even a stone, or any particular thing, if they felt they were experiencing God in that form, right?
Absolutely. What I meant was when I said everything is God doesn't mean that just because you worship God, you have to worship a tree. That's
Right.
part of what we're going to talk more about later, Sabrina. It's a good point, is free will. We all have free will, and we can choose to worship or not worship in whatever way we want to do. Absolutely right.
So in other words, where you see God, how you want to worship God, if you want to worship God, or whatever relationship you choose to have, or how you experience that, that's completely up to you.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I would like to say that, I studied science at university, and I never really thought I was going to do that. I thought I would be an artist and musician. But I found out that I was fascinated by science. And I've also been fascinated by the lives of scientists and people who've made amazing discoveries. And I think probably most of them also experience the divine, or God, in what they study and in the theories and in the ways that they perceive the natural world. So it's a fascinating idea just to contemplate God, the way you're saying, in everything, everywhere. I mean, both within everything and without everything. I love it. I think it's exciting.
People ask me, how do you know there's a God? Well, in my mind, there's only one way you can know there's a God, and that's not by believing in God, but by experiencing God in your life. That's how people know there's a God. They've experienced God working in their life, and then God becomes very real for them. But it's a very personal experience. You can't just, throw out this idea or this experience to everybody, because we all have our own personal experiences. But once you experience God in your life, then you know there's a God. That's what faith is. Faith is a combination of belief and experience.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I wanted to say, how do we define God if everything is God?
Yeah.
How do we define God? That's a very good point.
Well, to me, God is whatever you want God to be. It can be all the love in the universe, all the intelligence in the universe, all of the power and wisdom in the universe. Whatever people want God to be, it can be. It's a being greater than us that inspires us, watches over us, and has messengers to do that, we will talk about later.
So would you say that one way you could define what you mean by the word God is that it's something, it or he or she, or however you want to denote this, is something greater than us? And I think all of us intuitively feel that there is something greater than us, regardless of how we were raised, what tradition we might have been brought up in. But I think that sense of wonder and connection to something vast, something, well, beyond us, I think it's something natural and innate that people feel. And when anyone is in a situation of distress or pain, it's a natural impulse to call out for help. And of course, we'll call out to those around us, but we may also simply call out within ourselves to something beyond us. Please help me. Please guide me. And that's absolutely a fundamental experience that probably most of us have had.
Can I bring in this question as well? Or
Yeah, please.
so the question is, how do you experience God specifically?
When I have asked for help with certain things, I experience God working in my life. I'll give you an example. My daughter, who lives in Central California and has her own family, was having a particularly perplexing issue. And I asked God to remove that problem. And believe it or not, the very next day, she called me not knowing I had asked, specifically to tell me that problem had gone away. Now that tells me there's a God.
Wow.
So it's experiences like that for others or for ourselves that where we sense goodness. You know, like I sense goodness in the universe. I sense that the universe supports us in being happy and healthy and free. And that's got to come from some supreme intelligence or source of love. I can't be that mistaken to have that sense my whole life. So I think it's personal. I think each person has to define and look at their life and say, what experiences have I had that might show me there's a God?
I would say experience recently, the way I've been experiencing what I would call the unknowable, that I also think of as God, is just, I'm just overcome by a sense that I cannot put to words. It's just this, and it'll happen out of nowhere. I had an experience of it having a bowl of cereal this morning where just this sense of everything's as it should be, everything is fine and in place, and there's just this intense serenity plus energy that I feel. I feel a downpouring of energy, and it causes me to be very still. And to me, that could be an experience of many different things, but it's an experience of feeling connected and feeling serene and feeling sure that all is well. That's the best I can put words to that experience.
Okay, I think maybe we should move on if we're going to get through all 8 of these.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Sure. I just want to say one more thing, and that was, I think that I've often experienced God through music, and I think many people may have. And just another comment that comes to mind is, because both of you described in one way or another a sense of everything being well. And I'm thinking, well, what about someone who's in a situation where everything is not well? How would they experience God? And the only thing I can say is I think about times when I've been in a situation where everything is not well, and it's been a sense of an opening within me and some kind of almost like an energy again, but some kind of feeling of relief entering me, which hasn't necessarily changed any of the circumstances of what's not well, but does change the way I am with it. So I don't know, I just wanted to add that.
Great fact number 2. Great spiritual fact number 2 is there is a plan. There is a plan. Now, despite the appearances of chaos and so on that are going on now, God has a master plan for its creation. And we can't know all the details, but it involves learning and growing and spiritualizing ourselves, stage by stage, bit by bit, as we spiritualize ourselves. Now, this great plan, the overall great plan, as I understand it, and I want to share it with you in case it makes sense for you, picture the spiritual universe up here. and then the physical universe down here. Okay, spiritual, physical. So this is our planet. This is us on our planet down here. Everything, the plan says everything that's physical came out of spiritual. Spirit made what's physical. And then it says that whatever is physical will ultimately come back to spirit, will return to spirit. That's the great overall plan. So this part where spirit becomes physical is called involution. Involution. And the part where physical returns to spirit is called evolution. So if we're here and we're on the planet and we're in physical world right now, if we want to participate in the plan, then we want to participate in evolution. We want to evolve, which means learn and grow. And so that's just a kind of quick overview of the plan, is that everything is spiritual, and then it starts out that way and becomes physical. And then as part of the plan, we want to evolve. We want to learn and grow. Now, the royal road to spiritual growth, according to the Ageless Wisdom teachings, which I'll get into in a minute, the royal road is service and meditation. Service, by serving others, we serve God. So service to others and meditation. Now, meditation isn't for everyone, but you won't know till you try it. So I suggest if you haven't tried it, you try it. So this, we can be sure this is a brilliant plan, and obviously we're a big part of it.
You know, Dick, I wish I had heard you years ago. Your description of the plan would have helped me many, many years ago when I first heard about the story that we're talking about and that we talk about every Saturday on this show. Great spiritual event unfolding, and you're going to go into more of it. When I first heard that there is a plan of evolution, a plan for humanity, I recoiled. I didn't understand what that meant. It sounded like there was this great impersonal thing being imposed on special little me. And
Yeah.
I wanted to know that I could make my life be whatever I wanted. I didn't want anything to do, like I read about this, like a plan, what? So, so do I qualify for this plan? You know, all this stuff came into my head, and I tell you, I focused on all the juicy parts of the Ageless Wisdom teachings, and I ignored the plan part. And I think that really limited my understanding and my learning for many years, because it was too daunting for me to try to understand the plan. But the way you put it just now, I wish I'd heard that years ago.
So Cielito, can I ask you a question? Were you afraid of being railroaded into stuff? Were you like, oh no, they're going to tell me what to do. I won't be free anymore. Was it that kind of feeling?
It was that, but I think what I found intimidating was I sensed that a lot of what I thought was true was going to be upended, that I would be told it wasn't true. I think that was really at the heart of it. And I was afraid of that.
I want to mention one thing. We have another question. What do we mean by grow? And I think that ties in with what you're saying about a plan, sure. Because my understanding of growth is expansion, becoming more in every sense. More aware. We're talking about the growth of consciousness here. I mean, our physical bodies, of course, do continue growing throughout our lives. But really, in terms of the topic of this show, it's the growth of consciousness. So that means becoming more aware all the time. And that means gaining more understanding.
Right. If we evolve, see, every major philosophy and religion of the world agrees humanity is made up of four aspects: physical, emotional, also called astral, mental, and spiritual. And so first we evolved physically. We were animal man, and then we became man. And we still have a little bit more physical to evolve. We're going to see more colors. But we're physically, we can make dexterous movements with our fingers. We're physically very evolved. Emotionally, humanity has kind of over-evolved. We're making major decisions in our life based on feelings. Well, the problem with feelings is they're temporary. Just, you don't like how you feel, just wait 10 minutes, you'll feel different. So we've over-evolved emotionally, and what's next for humanity is to evolve mentally. And now we can think, but we don't direct our life from our thinking. We direct it from our feelings mostly. And so evolve mentally and spiritually. And if you look at physical and emotional, you could call that your lower self. And now we're aiming for the higher self, which is a combination of mental and spiritual. And so we want to use the mental and spiritual aspects of ourselves to guide our lives. That's the next step for humanity in growth. So when I say growth, I mean evolution through those, as well as the evolution of consciousness. As we evolve, we become more and more aware that we're not humans having spiritual experiences, we're spirits having a human experience. And so that's the order in which humanity evolves. And humanity isn't the only thing evolving and growing. The whole planet is. The whole planet is involved in the plan. Everything that's physical is going to ultimately return to spirit.
And
so,
Dick, isn't it true that the whole universe is evolving? I mean, it's something that's taking place everywhere, right?
It is, but I can't wrap my brain around that.
Okay.
So, but you're absolutely right, of course. Yeah, surely. So, and that's how the planet evolves. The planet evolves because we evolve. We grow. And so learning and growing it means taking responsibility. It means seeing all aspects of how other people see things and how they feel. It means becoming part of the brotherhood of humanity and working together, which we're going to talk more about.
And growing, I want to add this related to my feeling intimidated about hearing about this plan of evolution. Growing also means letting go of old ideas that don't serve. And I certainly, when I compare myself to the, years ago when I first heard this information, I've certainly outgrown many of the notions I had then and completely let them go. I mean, they're not even a part of my life. I can't make them be a part of my life. I've gone far beyond that.
And this seems like humanity's facing this right now too, asking a lot of these difficult questions, trying to increase in awareness, dropping beliefs that they thought were true, trying to reestablish connection, brotherhood to each other.
That's a good
Very
point.
good.
Growing.
Yeah. We're definitely 2020 has been the year of growth, hopefully.
Great spiritual fact number 3.
Wait a sec, Dick, just before you continue, just a sec. There was a question of why did we over-evolve our thinking as opposed to our thinking ability, but you actually said feeling, didn't you?
I did.
Right.
Our feelings have over-evolved to the point where we depend on our feelings to kind of run our life, when in fact it's time to switch and use our mind and our spiritual aspects to run our life, our soul. So yeah, it was emotionally that we've over-evolved, but we'll make it.
So kind of changing our compass a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great fact number 3, one rule fits all. One rule. And I'll tell you, one rule covers all behavior. It sums it all up. And it is the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Treat others like you want to be treated. It's in every major religion. And it's about harmlessness and goodwill. It's about, if you can't help somebody or love somebody, at least don't hurt them. And then goodwill is wishing good for others. The will of good for others. So being a force for good in the world is what the golden rule is all about. It's about thinking of others, not just ourselves, and being a force for good in the world by treating them well. We're going to talk about karma in a little bit. Don't want to get too into that right now. But the golden rule is the rule that fits every aspect of life. Treat others like you'd like to be treated. It's about tolerance.
So Dick, this is, I'm not much for rules, but I love this one, the golden rule.
Yes.
So you're talking about doing things for others as you would have them do to you, but also saying things and thinking things. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It all counts. Thoughts are things.
And it's
Thoughts are
something
real.
you can
Yeah.
nurture sort of in the home and expand as you go.
You
as
know,
you
that's
grow.
a good point, Tim. You know, it's hard to just take a rule like that and apply it to everything. So a good place to start is with those nearest to you. Start treating them more and more. We're not going to do this perfectly, but more and more like we want to be treated. It's a matter of improving our behavior step by step by step by step, and our thoughts. And then you can expand beyond the home and go to your job, or you know, whatever, however you want to expand it. But yeah, it's about treating others like you want. I mean, if you want somebody to be thoughtful of you, you need to be thoughtful of them. That
Right.
kind of thing.
And what you were saying about thoughts earlier, both of you, thoughts, you said thoughts are a thing as well. And I know that in many traditions, they teach that thoughts are energy, in fact, and that with your thoughts, you create, in fact. So they're very powerful. They're important.
Very powerful. Actually, in the future, we're gonna do less talking and more thinking
That sounds good.
as a human race. Okay, fact number 4, happiness follows service. Now, something that I learned from the ageless wisdom that my religion didn't teach me, but I found out is critical, is that the nature of the soul is to serve. The soul seeks to serve. Now, we all have a soul, and actually we are a soul, but we all have a soul, and the soul is trying to get us to do its will, which is God's will, and that will is primarily to serve. The nature of the soul is to serve. Albert Schweitzer had a quote, beautiful quote, and he said, Albert Schweitzer, you know, great humanitarian and scientist, he said, one thing I know, those who will be really happy are those who have found how to serve. And I'll tell you why. Because when we serve, we stop focusing on ourselves and we start focusing on other people. And when we do that, it makes our soul happy. The joy in our soul just bursts out and makes us happy. So if you want to be happy, look for ways to serve. He also said, the purpose of human life is to serve and to show compassion. And so this, like I said, takes the focus off of ourselves, and you can serve in any way. You can serve in big ways, you can serve in little ways. Just look, there's no one way to serve. People have come up to me and said, well, what is the way that I should serve? Any way you want. Just look whatever your heart is drawn to and then participate. It's about filling a need. See, the thing about service is you fill a need because it needs to be filled, not because you want reward. If you want reward, it's not true service.
Right. That
You
makes
do
sense.
it without wanting recognition or any kind of reward. That's service. Yeah.
Dick, we have a question. Someone's asked, well, what if the world around you, the people around you, don't treat you with respect?
Yeah.
I think this relates maybe to the golden rule, but I think it fits with service as well. What do you do in that case?
Well, you you recognize the law of cause and effect, which we're going to get into, but the law of cause and effect says whatever you give out, that's what you give back. So rather than being discouraged and shutting down, I would suggest that what you want to do is give more, be kind, be kinder to others, be thoughtful of others, and eventually it's going to come back. Now, we're not in charge of the part that's hard to put up with, I should say. The part that's the hardest to deal with is the timing. We want it back right away, right? But that's not how it works. It will come back when it's good and ready to come back, but it will come back to us. So my suggestion to that question would be just keep putting goodness out there, goodwill and harmlessness. Be as harmless as you can. You know, just think if in the whole world, if nobody hurt anybody, it would be a different world, wouldn't it? Just harmlessness. Forget all the love stuff. You know, it would change the world. So just keep putting it out there.
Right. You don't have to like someone to be harmless or to help somebody. You know, isn't it funny how we determine whether someone deserves our help? I mean, obviously we need to set boundaries in certain ways, but I think intuitively we know where our boundaries are, and we don't have to be riding in on a horse and carrying a torch to serve either. It doesn't have to be grand gestures. It can be it's a simple sharing of oneself to help another. I wanted to share a quote from Satya Sai Baba. No activity can give you the joy that service does. You should yearn for the chance to console, comfort, encourage, heal. See yourself as another. Feel his joy to be yours, his sorrow to be yours. I have that taped on my laptop here.
He didn't just say do it, he said yearn for it.
Yearn for it.
Look for opportunities to serve. Look for opportunities to be kind. When you pass someone walking on the sidewalk, say hi. Don't just look at the sidewalk and walk by. That's looking for an opportunity to be kind. You know, that I love that quote. That's wonderful.
Well, and we also have a comment about, well, how do you make time for service if you're working 40 hours a week? And this brings me to how do you make time for service if you're working 40 hours a week? How do you have time to, in addition to that, for example? And I think I remember that Sai Baba, again, speaking of Sai Baba, said, whatever you do, for example, your job, you might be cleaning houses or whatever you might be doing, offer it as service. So your work itself, those 40 hours a week, are service. You are serving when you work. And in fact, in some cultures, for example, I know this in India, people refer to their job, they say, now I'm going to do my service. So the work you do to earn your living is actually called service. People call it that. And it's true, when you're working, you are serving also. But the idea here is that you can do that work as a form of service. You can offer it as service. It's a different way of doing the same thing, which will change the way you experience it and the way you experience yourself and the world around you. I think that's very powerful.
Absolutely. And you can be walking across the sidewalk and see a piece of trash, pick it up and drop it in the next trash basket you come to. That's service to the planet, to everybody. You can serve by donating to causes that you feel strongly about. That takes no time. And another way to serve that takes very little time, we're going to talk about later, transmission meditation, is a way to serve the world. And it's a way for very busy people to just set an hour or two aside once or twice a week and serve the world. And we'll talk about transmission meditation a little later. It's something else that was taught by Benjamin Creme. Great spiritual fact number 5. Everything works under law. God has great laws. There are great cosmic laws that govern everything in life. We'll talk about probably 2 of them. We might mention a third one, but the 2 that we want to mention for sure are the law of karma and the law of rebirth. Now, karma, let's take that one first. Karma is simply the way in the East that they call cause and effect, which is the way we say it in the West. Cause and effect. Scientists call it the law of action and reaction. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Now, this law of karma, or cause and effect, is taught in every major religion. It was taught in Christianity when Jesus said, as you sow, so shall you reap. Meaning, as you throw seeds out, you will get back, the benefits of that. So he taught karma. It's just simply cause and effect. So we create our lives, believe it or not, moment to moment by what we do and what we think. And so we take actions, and then those actions cause an effect. That's why getting even never gets even. Revenge doesn't work, because whatever happened to you was probably karmic, and now it's balanced the scales. And now if you want to get revenge, now they owe you some instead. It starts all over. So when bad stuff happens, don't try to get revenge. Don't try to get even. Just let it. It's probably balancing out, and just let it go. Let it go. That's detachment. Detaching from the need to do something about hurt and pain that others are doing to you. So,
Dick, I wanted to just mention something, because when you talk about that, the way to like not immediately think, oh, I have to get back at them,
yes,
and to see it in a bigger picture. That I think one of the things that helps with that bigger picture view is remembering that we live many times, like the fact of reincarnation, right? So
absolutely.
maybe what I'm experiencing now, maybe I did stuff in past lives, which of course I don't remember now, but it's very possible I did things that caused this to be happening to me now, right?
Yes. So you brought up the second one we want to talk about, which is rebirth.
Sorry. Yeah.
That's perfect. And when we talk about rebirth, we're talking about reincarnation. We're talking about the soul, which is eternal, taking different bodies in different lifetimes. And each time we pick up, the soul remembers where our evolution stopped in that lifetime. And so each time we pick up where we left off, which is pretty cool. So we're always moving up, or at least staying the same. We don't go backwards. And so rebirth, when I say reincarnation, I'm not talking about coming back as an animal. That's called the transmigration of souls, and it's a whole different deal. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about coming back as a person, as a human being. And so it makes sense of things like, how could a 6-year-old sit down at a piano and compose an entire cantata in 10 minutes? Well, he was probably a composer in their previous lifetime. How can this girl over here in Whittier in Southern California, when she was 14 years old, she was painting like 4 paintings at once, and they all look like Picasso. Her paintings are now hanging in museums all around the world. How could she do that? She probably is Picasso. That's how. So it just things start to make sense when you understand the idea of rebirth. Now, by the time you realize you're a living soul, you've had thousands of lifetimes. So most of us have had thousands and thousands of lifetimes. The soul is eternally patient. There's no hurry, but you can be in a hurry if you want to evolve and learn and grow. But the soul is eternally patient, and if you want to coast for a lifetime, you can do that. It's okay. But once you realize you're a soul, you don't want to coast. You start to respond to your soul, and you want to learn, and you want to grow, and you want to serve. And so rebirth explains so much. Now, the thing about rebirth is that after thousands of lifetimes, eventually, we're going to become a perfect human being. We will have learned all the lessons that planet Earth has to teach us, and then we will graduate from planet Earth and become a permanent spirit or a permanent consciousness, as demonstrated by Jesus when he rose from the dead and he ascended. Well, he was showing us where we're all going to go. And once you get to that part.
Can I ask you a question before you go there?
Sure.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but this was on my
No, it's
mind.
fine.
And this connects to, I think, where you might be going.
Good.
If we've been living thousands of lifetimes, if we have this very simple golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, which it's a rule that appears in every one of the great religions, and it's something we were taught when we were 5 years old. Why do we continue to be violent? Why do there continue to be wars? Why are people being tortured? Why are people still being killed after all this time?
Because we make poor choices. We have free will. God doesn't cause hurricanes and tornadoes and earthquakes. We do. We do by our actions. For example, it's been pretty much proven scientifically now that when we do nuclear testing, it causes earthquakes somewhere. And so we make poor choices. We let our feelings run our life. We get mad at somebody and we create violence. There's also a dark side, which I don't like to talk about because then we give it power, but there's a dark side to life. There are dark forces that resist evolution, that are fighting evolution, that want to keep everything just the same. And those forces, when they get a hold of somebody, they can create a pretty evil, destructive person. And so the idea is to not let them in.
Well, and isn't it also true that, sort of in answer to what you were saying, Cielito, that it's true that we've all lived many, many times, but some of us have lived more times than others. That is to say, some people are a bit further along, some people are a bit further back. We're all at a different point. It's like everyone's on this long, long journey, and we're not all walking exactly in step with each other. So there'll be people who are ahead of me on the path. There are people behind me on the path. People are where they are, but it's also, it helps me to understand others sometimes, just to say, well, whatever that person's going through, I've been through it too, or I will go through it, because all the experiences that are available for us to have, we're all going to have them. It's inevitable. It's part of being alive on the earth. And just, I have to mention one more thing, and that was, there was a question about why is there this, why don't you get the rebound effect in terms of the law of karma? Why don't you get that like right away? And that it makes it harder to learn if you can't see the effect immediately. Dick, do you want to answer that?
Well, sometimes you do get it immediately. See, the thing is to be aware of the laws. So if you're aware of rebirth, that helps you understand how some people can be more evolved than others. Like Sabina said, we're at different levels. That's what makes the world go round. We're not all the same. And with cause and effect, if you're aware of it, then you can see it more easily. You can see it happen, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. And I think that God and God's helpers, the masters of wisdom, the ascended masters, know when the timing would be most effective. There are great lords, spiritual lords, called the Lords of Karma. And their job is to make sure that the law of karma works without fail. And they administer the laws of karma, the law of karma, and they know exactly what the timing should be for each of us and for each situation. So they administer the timing within the ability of people to exercise their free will. So they still have to work with humanity and our free will, because we can decide things, but they can inspire actions and movements. So the lords of karma kind of administer that law, and you don't know when it's going to happen. That's where you have to have some trust in the spiritual universe, I think.
Well, and also I think there's another thing, and that may be simply that sometimes we have to catch up, sort of catch up with ourselves in a way. I think that in the earlier time of my life, when I was younger, I had a lot of catching up to do. And I simply had to put my nose to the grindstone and be willing to do the work to catch up, in the sense that it seemed like I had a lot of negative karma, or that a lot of difficult things were happening. But I just, I was helped out with teachings that told me, okay, well, if that's the case, well, maybe it's simply that in this lifetime, you decided that you wanted to kind of get up to kind of bring the balance sheet into zero or close to zero. And so you're making up for maybe a lot of past lives where you weren't paying attention and you weren't following these precepts or these ideas. So you're catching up, And
maybe
so I think
another way of saying that perhaps is you're never given more than you can handle. We are equipped. 2020 is challenging us in ways we never expected, but the rule is that we are never given more than we can handle. We can handle what's presented to us. It's meant to take us to the next level, to make us stronger, so then we can take on more. And that gives me some encouragement in my low moments.
Yeah, hope is critical. Having hope. That's a great point, Cielito. All right, fact number 6. Humanity has wise helpers. Now, we've already mentioned these helpers a couple times that help God administer the plan, especially with humanity. Humanity has wise helpers is great spiritual fact number 6. People who went before us, people who lived before us and evolved before us and became perfected human beings, learned all the lessons planet Earth has to teach. They graduated and became permanent consciousness, permanent spirits. Now, when you do that, you're called an ascended master. They have many names, the masters of wisdom, the lords of compassion, the spiritual hierarchy, because even in the spiritual universe, they're at different levels. Masters are at different levels, have different levels of responsibility. These great beings people who went before us are people like Buddha, Jesus, Mary, John, Paul, Ringo. No, not Ringo. Just kidding. St. John, St. Paul, Joan of Arc. These are all great beings that are now ascended masters or masters of the wisdom. And by the way, they're called masters because they're masters over themselves, not because they're masters over us. They're masters over themselves. And these masters have 7 paths they can take once they graduate from planet Earth. And one of those paths, thank goodness, is the path of Earth service. 63 of these great beings have hung around planet Earth and behind the scenes have been the inspiration for humanity's great advancements, great achievements over the eons. So these great masters of wisdom, these beings have been the inspiration behind the scenes for humanity, and it is our information now that it's time for them to come forward, not all of them, but a lot of them, to come forward in physical bodies again. Last time was about 100,000 years ago, according to the ageless wisdom, and come forward in human bodies and walk with humanity on the planet as teachers. As teachers, they can't come and wave a magic wand and make everything all right. They actually could, but they're not going to because of the law of karma. We made the mess, so we have to clean it up. So they're going to inspire us and teach us and guide us. They're going to make suggestions. And then we have free will, and we can either follow their suggestions to get this planet turned around and back on track or not. It's an individual choice. We have free will. Now, Benjamin Crumb's master said what is probably going to happen is about 1/3 of the people are going to respond to the suggestions. These masters are going to come forward. First, their teacher, their leader is going to come forward. Teacher for the age of Aquarius will be the first one. About 1/3 will respond. About 1/3 will say, wait and see. And about 1/3 will say, no way, no way, Antichrist, Antichrist.
So you're saying that they're moving from behind the scenes to on the scene? Is that
Absolutely.
right? Like in the physical?
In the physical. There are
And Dick, I just have a question. One of our guests has asked, why have they been hiding behind the scenes when they should have been up front all along?
They tried that. They tried
tried
it about
that. They already did
100,000
it.
years ago.
Okay.
During the Atlantean civilization on the planet, when man was mostly emotional and physical, didn't use our mind much, had a germ of a mind. And they thought, well, maybe we can advance evolution on the planet by giving humanity great science. So they did. They gave us science that we weren't capable of coming up with yet. And of course, we got all angry at each other and we made weapons out of them. And we basically blew up part of the planet. And that's why you can see part of the civilization of Atlantis under the oceans. So the masters thought to themselves, well, that didn't work. They're not ready yet. We have to wait until they're ready. So they retreated. Now they're not up in heaven. They're in the mountains and desert regions of the planet where they don't have to deal with smog and noise pollution and all that stuff. They can be focused 100% of the time on their responsibilities. So they decided to retreat and wait until humanity was ready. One of the great sayings is, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Well, we must be ready because they're starting to appear. There are 14 of these masters on the planet in physical bodies right now in some of the major cities around the world, including their leader, the teacher for the age of Aquarius, whose personal name is Maitreya. In Sanskrit, Maitreya means the happy one, the one who brings joy. And he's the first one that we'll see and that will talk to us. And then the other masters will come forward.
Why is he the leader?
He's the leader because he's the eldest of humanity to stick around planet Earth. Maitreya and the Buddha were the first two earthlings to graduate from planet Earth and become permanent consciousness. Now, the Buddha has other work he's doing, and Maitreya is the head of the masters, the ascended masters, the masters of wisdom, and he is their leader. And so he's been working with humanity. He's the oldest. He's the oldest earthling on this planet, and he's also the oldest master on this planet. And so that's why he comes first, and that's why he's their leader.
So, Dick, wouldn't that mean that, in a sense, leader here means somebody who has more experience and therefore can also take more responsibility? Their vision is broader, they see farther.
Absolutely.
Okay.
He is the Christ for our planet. What does that mean? It means he embodies the love of God, the Christ aspect, which is the love of God, which Jesus taught, the love of God. And he is the Christ for our planet. He overshadowed Jesus. He put his consciousness in Jesus for those 3 years, from the baptism to the crucifixion, that Jesus did his primary teaching. And so because he overshadowed Jesus, Jesus became known as Jesus the Christ. It's the age-old way that masters give out their teachings. The Buddha did it with Prince Gautama. Prince Gautama was born. He knew exactly what he was going to do. He volunteered to let the Buddha teach through him, just like Jesus did before he was born. And then when Prince Gautama was of age, then the Buddha overshadowed him and put his consciousness in Prince Gautama's mind. Prince Gautama gave out the Buddha's teaching and became known as Gautama Buddha. This time, the teacher is coming himself. That's Maitreya, the leader of the masters. And he is coming as the teacher for the age of Aquarius.
And I want to add that, you're saying these masters are coming, Maitreya is coming. But in fact, for many, many years, people have had experiences of Maitreya and the masters of wisdom, albeit many unknowingly. This happens in times of disaster, in times of car accidents, in times of illness. I'm waiting to hear stories of people's experiences of what would seem to be masters or Maitreya during this time of COVID, because so many people are suffering. The masters and Maitreya are the real first responders. They are there at the major earthquakes. They are there at fires. They are there even in just normal everyday moments. People are having encounters with ordinary strangers. Oftentimes they're homeless, man or woman, a student who's a friendly student. And what I've noticed in these experiences, which have been related in print by Benjamin Creme, whose books we mentioned earlier, the hallmark of these experiences is that they're so ordinary and yet incredibly memorable. So I want to share that with the audience, and you don't even have to know about about Maitreya or the masters to have an experience of them. And I encourage the audience to think in the past, if they've had an unusual healing experience, an unusual connection with a friendly stranger that remains in the memory. Oftentimes, they appear with luminous eyes and a very loving countenance. So this is not something that we have to wait for. People are actually having experiences of the masters.
Yes, when I said coming, I meant coming out in the open as who they are. You're absolutely right. Masters can appear any way they want to. They can appear as a child, as an adult, as an African American, Asian, as any race they want to, any age they want to. They can appear to people, and have been. Reports of appearances of the masters have been shared with this magazine that Benjamin Creme started, Share-International magazine. And what people would do is write their experience to Benjamin Creme, and then if he would have to ask his master, because he was taught how to be in contact with one of the masters. And if the master confirmed that that was a true experience of one of the masters, he would publish the letter. And these have been going on for 25, 30 years, these letters that have been printed with people having experiences. And so people, they're doing it less now because their focus is more on coming forward openly to humanity. right now, and that takes every bit of energy they have. So they're not doing it as much as they used to, but many people have had experiences, and including, I'm sure, all of us, of a master. They're you'd swear they were your neighbor when you see them or talk to them. I mean, they're just people are going to be blown away by how simple the masters are when they come forward. I mean, like you said, they're just loving, kind, thoughtful people who talk just like we talk, just like you and I, and they know us because they were us. They were us. They've had every experience on this planet. They've been killed. They've been killers. They've been abandoned, and they've abandoned people. You know, they've had every experience there is to have. So they know us intimately. That's why they don't judge us. They don't judge us. They just love us because they completely understand us. They were us. I mean, it's just an amazing thing.
Dick, I just wanted to say we're going to soon come up to the time when we start our transmission, so maybe we should carry on to the next fact.
Absolutely.
And just before you do that, there was a question about the emotions and why have we overdeveloped our emotions? And I thought of an answer, and that was simply, well, maybe it's not that they're overdeveloped. Maybe our sensitivity emotionally is not a negative thing. It's not that they're overdeveloped. It's simply that our mind is underdeveloped. And so our ability to observe our own emotions and our reactions, our ability to have awareness of our emotions and understand them and balance them, maybe that's what's missing, and we don't have enough of that. What do you think?
I think that's wise.
Okay.
I like it. Fact number 7, the time is now. The time is now. This is an urgent message we're giving you. We're entering a new planetary cycle. This is astronomy, not astrology that's in newspapers for entertainment. Astronomy, our solar system and our planet are surrounded by 12 great constellations called the zodiac. And each constellation, they're huge, they have tremendous energies. And one at a time, we come into alignment with each of these 12 constellations. It takes 26,000 years to align with each of them once. So for about 2,000 years, we're in alignment with one of these. The last 2,000 years, we were in alignment with Pisces, the great constellation Pisces. And when that happens, we get a great teacher to inaugurate the teaching for that period of time. And when we're in alignment, we say we are in the age of whatever that constellation is. Well, in 1625, we started moving out of the influence of Pisces and its energies. And in 1675, we started moving into the influence and alignment with Aquarius, the next constellation in order. And so it's time for a teacher for the age of Aquarius to come forward. And that's the world teacher that we've been talking about, Maitreya, the teacher for the age of Aquarius. And with him come the Aquarian energies. So the individual people that were developed under the Piscean energy of individuality, man has come out of the herd in the last 2,000 years. Those individuals are now going to be taught how to put themselves to the service of the group. Aquarian energy supports group action. That's why people marching in the streets could save our healthcare, because Aquarian energy was behind them. And of course, what we notice is that all of our great institutions are collapsing. Healthcare is collapsing, doesn't work anymore. The government isn't supporting the people like it could anymore. Education isn't working anymore, no matter how much money all of these great institutions were built with Piscean energy, and Piscean energy is being withdrawn. So all they can do is collapse.
Including our financial system.
Build these institutions with the energy of cooperation.
Our financial system is based on Piscean energy.
Great example. So once we rebuild these great institutions with the energy of cooperation, the energy of Aquarius, they will serve humanity for the next 2,000 years. But right now we're in that gap where things aren't working. And so this is our chance to turn the world around with the masters as they come forward. We're going to build a new civilization. We're going to build a new civilization that provides food and clothing and shelter and education and healthcare and freedom and justice and dignity for everybody. Now, it's not going to happen overnight, but it is going to happen gradually. A few things will happen right away. Benjamin Krem's master said that within 2 years of Maitreya coming forward, if you can believe this, there'll be no more starvation on this planet. We have a 12% surplus of food. It's just not getting distributed. The plans are there to distribute it, but nobody's ready to hear them yet. Wait until the masters come forward. Some things will happen very quickly, but it's a great time to be alive, because you're going to see, if you're in decent health at all, you're going to see unbelievable, wonderful changes that are happening in this new time. And we're here now for this time.
Well, and Dick, as you say that, I just think about all the people out in the streets all over the world marching for ideas like fairness, transparency, justice, an end to police brutality, an end to governments not serving their people. And these people who are out in the streets marching, they're being moved by and really empowered by these energies that you're talking about, right? These Aquarian energies that are giving people the confidence to step out. People who never, ever participated in protest marches before are suddenly out there on the streets, and it feels right. It feels natural.
They're being inspired. Even Benjamin Krem's master even went so far as to say that even the president of the United States will no longer be one person. It will be a panel of wise people. Now, not sure exactly when that's going to happen, but that's the way Aquarian energy works. It works in groups. Yeah. And so that's the future for humanity. You're going to see groups becoming, these individual leaders, their time is over. They just don't know it yet. Yeah. But that's the way the future is going to be. Now, one of the things I meant to say about the masters and Maitreya, I didn't say before, is that they come for everybody, regardless of age, sexual preference, race, level of income. They come for everybody, religious and non-religious. They don't care. Maitreya said, if you're in a religion and it's working for you, great. If you're not, I come for you too. I come for everybody. So let's move on to fact number 8. You play an important part. Now, this is driving it home individually. This is personal. It's a critical time in the history of the world, and I don't think it's any accident that we're all here on the planet alive now. Every generation comes to fulfill their purpose. My parents were here to save the world in World War II from Hitler and Mussolini, and they did. Women went to work in factories. Men went off and died. They did it to save the world, and they saved the world. They were up to their mission. Well, we're here for this. We're here so that when the teachers come forward, we can follow their suggestions and turn the world around and change it into a friendly, loving, kind, thoughtful place where everybody has everything they need. And so that's why we're here. I'm convinced it's no accident. And we're also here because we can handle all of the changes that are going on. It doesn't mean we will, but we can. We're capable of it. We're capable of handling this chaos. We're capable of handling the pandemic. We're capable of making it through all this and coming out the other side and creating a new, much finer, much more loving, much more just world.
Well, and this kind of leads us into what we're going to do next, which is
Can I make
meditation.
a statement? I just want for our audience, because I see them coming in and they're staying with us. And thank you for joining us, audience. When we say we, this means all of us. This means if you tuned into this and you stayed, there's a reason. And when Dick Larson talks about spiritual fact of life number 8, you play a part. It's no accident that you took the time to listen to this, even just a little bit. If you were here for a minute and you got something that moved you, then I really encourage you to explore more of the information. The links are in our Zoom chat. The links are in our Facebook chat. There are free book downloads. So certainly educate yourself more on the ageless wisdom teachings, and also find a role to play in your community, especially at this time. Certainly here in the United States, there's no lack of opportunity to stand up for justice. So that really is why we are all here today, is to bring about sharing, cooperation, and justice for all people.
And
Yes.
I just want to mention, there was a question, where is our evidence for the idea, for example, that none of us are given more than we can handle? And just on the topic of evidence, what I wanted to say is that we don't have any evidence. That is, there is no empirical evidence that we can point to here. But what the masters of wisdom say, what Benjamin Creme always said was, you have to trust your own judgment. You have to trust your own discernment. We have a mind for a reason, and that is to use it. So whatever you hear, whatever you come across, turn it over in your mind and make your own decision about it. Trust yourself, actually, is another way of seeing this, and that is that some people talk about the master within, which is simply you are a soul, and as such, you're a divine being. So this divine being that you are can perceive and tell what's true and what's right. Of course, you might have clouds in the way, like emotions or reactions, things that can cloud your judgment, but
Or fear.
or fear, but you do have that ability to know and to perceive, and so it's a question of using it, and practice makes perfect. Just keep going.
Look for ways to serve. Look for ways to give people hope. March in the streets. Get on Twitter. Get on Facebook. Share share what we've been saying at whatever level you think it makes sense. I heard there might be a great teacher coming to make suggestions on how we can turn this world around. Wouldn't that be great? Everybody counts. There's nobody too young or too old to participate in turning the world around. I'm convinced it's why we're here. It's a great opportunity for service to be alive right now.
That's right. And in fact, we're going to do something now that is a form of service. It's called transmission meditation. And it's something that anyone can do over the age of 12. It doesn't take any special training or previous experience. It's very straightforward, very easy to do. And it can only be done in groups. It's a meditation for the Aquarian age. It's not something you can do at home alone. However, now because of the pandemic, we are doing this meditation, each of us alone at home, but we're connecting with other people, for example, right now through our technology, and groups who have been doing this meditation before the pandemic, who used to meet together physically, they now do it each in their own home, but mentally visualizing the other people in their group. So they're connecting that way. Would one of you like to describe how to do transmission?
I'll let Tim.
Sure, it's a very powerful but simple meditation. No special poses or anything. You can just sit comfortably. The idea is to keep your attention at the ajna center between the eyebrows, so this center between the eyebrows. And how you do that is you kind of look in that direction. You'd have your eyes closed and you think the word Om every time your attention drops. So when you're meditating, you get distracted. Your attention, you may find, drops down to the solar plexus. When you find that happen, you think the word Om, and it'll start to move back up to this center here. You're allowed to think. Obviously, that's what your lower mind is supposed to do. So you can allow your thoughts to go, but as your attention keeps up and the meditation goes, you'll find that kind of goes into the background and slows down a bit. And this meditation is designed for the Aquarian age, the age that we're in now, because it's a group form of meditation. So it requires 3 people to do it or more. And you can do it on your own and link up, as we've been doing with COVID. But of course, if you happen to be in a situation where you have a few other people with you that can do transmission with you, you can do it together and start your own transmission group. So you don't have to belong to anything to do it. What you're doing is transmitting energies, these great spiritual energies that are flooding the planet, stepping them down so that they're usable for humanity. So these great powerful energies generally just bounce off everybody's shoulders. You can't absorb them because they're just too powerful, too strong. So this is a form of service by mentally linking up and being able to step that down to usable energy. So it's like taking the electricity from a transformer and stepping it down to a plug that you can plug and get power from. The transformer is just way too powerful and would blow your system. So this is a great way to help serve the planet, to help serve humanity, because then we can absorb these energies. They're healing energies, cosmic energies, solar energies. So this is how we can take a part in it. And really all you have to do, or all we do at the beginning, is we say what's called the Great Invocation, which is an ancient invocation that it's like ringing a bell. It gets the attention of the masters of wisdom, saying we're ready to meditate. And if you can, you keep a regular rhythm of meditation. And you can go for as long as you like. We're going to do one now for about 10 minutes. And if you'd like to continue on after we're done, please do so. And I think we sent some links in as well as meditation groups you can connect with if you like it.
And you don't have to believe anything to do this meditation.
That's
Absolutely.
It works whether you believe in anything or not.
It's like a law, isn't it?
Yeah.
It just works.
Like gravity.
Yeah, that's right.
You don't have to believe in gravity.
Just on the topic of backing things up with facts or evidence, we do know Benjamin Creme has said in the future that the existence of the soul will be proven by scientists. So it's coming. It's
in
coming.
France.
It's
in France.
I'm actually reading a book right now by a French doctor who studied reincarnation, near-death experiences. I just want to throw that in. So it's out there. The information is out there. And like we say, you don't have to believe everything that we say, but we certainly invite you to consider the possibility and to explore on your own and let your mind and your heart tell you what is relevant.
And we heartily invite you to try this meditation. You might like it. You might really like it.
Yeah. So I'll set my timer, and I want to thank Dick Larson so much for bringing your energy and your wisdom and your experience to our show, taking the time with us. We really, really, really appreciate it. And you've been a friend of mine for a long time, and I cherish our friendship. And
it was so kind of you to invite me. Thank you so much.
We'd love to have you back. And to our audience, thank you for taking the time to join us. And please join us again, same time, same channel on Facebook and Zoom. If you choose to register on Zoom, we are here at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 11, 12, 1, 2 p.m. Eastern time. And we do this a little earlier on the West Coast so that most people in the world can join in at most any time. So we will do our meditation and then do a quiet goodbye, and we look forward to seeing you again.
And Dick, would you like to say the great invocation for us? We'll mute out and you can be the voice saying it, and everyone can say it themselves. So we say it all together.
From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth.
And that is it. That is transmission meditation. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you
Thanks
for
for joining
joining
us.
us.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week.
And thanks, Dick.
Well, that was simply exceptional. This and other episodes of What in the World is Happening can be viewed anytime on Share International Canada's Facebook page. Thank you. What in the World is Happening airs every second Saturday at 11 a.m. Pacific Time and 2 p.m. Eastern Time.